Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. The Kazakh prospect Ivan Dychko has advanced to 10-0 on his ring return in Kazakhstan, brutally knocking out Denis Bakhtov, leaving the Russian spasming on the ground and needing some attention. And it really was an impressive KO. And Bakhtov, for a few seconds there, looked in a bad way, doing this sort of, he was knocked out cold, but still thinking he had an opponent in front of him, arms and legs flailing around. But fortunately, he was able to eventually, leave the ring on his own sort of steam, under his own power. But Ivan Dychko, it was a pretty remarkable knockout on his return to the ring, 2 years out of the ring, almost 2 years to the day. So Daichko, sort of 1 minute flat, really isn't too much to talk about in terms of the action because there really wasn't much of it. But we'll quickly go through it and then on to a few thoughts, because hopefully this is not just a one-off fight for Daichko in 2021, because he's been inactive for too long. He has, in my view, been really mismanaged so far in his career. And sure, you can point to the pandemic and go, well, actually, that didn't help. But the guy, even before that, only had 10 fights in almost 3 years. It's not really good enough. He has been left behind almost compared to some of his other peers. He was in that class of Rio 2016, also London 2012, bronze medalist at both games. But you think Tony Yoka, Filip Hrgovic, Joe Joyce, all those guys, medalists at the Rio Games like Daichko, who got a bronze. But they are far and away well removed in terms of their sort of profile, to some extent their development, the fights that they've been getting in general, just much better than Ivan Dychko, who has been living and training in Miami in the United States, but clearly whatever his setup has been has not been really working for him. But this is a fight where he gets a little bit of ring rust off, not much ring rust off given how short this was. But he looked okay in there. He looked sharp. The jab, he was sort of mixing the use of it up, sometimes pouring with it, sometimes throwing it with intent. He landed a right hand, left hook to the body combo sort of about 30 seconds into the round. And then obviously a little while later, the right hand that, stopped the fight, stopped Denis Bakhtov, knocked him unconscious, separated him from his senses. That came at about 1 minute into the round. Advances to 10-0 on the back of that. And really, there's not much to sort of say about it, but it's been disappointing that Daichko has been so woefully mismanaged and been so inactive. And even ahead of this, there had been a number of fights at different periods in the past 2 years where they've been scheduled for whatever reason just didn't go ahead. He is one of these guys who seemingly has got the skills, and we can see he's got some power. Although, let's not sort of mince words here. Denis Bakhtov is not a great opponent. He is a guy that heading into this had lost a slew of fights and now is 9 straight losses in a row. 41 years old, stopped in most of his recent fights. Bakhtov should probably actually consider, hanging it up, because these are the sorts of knockouts that can do lasting damage. And yeah, it was concerning there for a little while, though, when he was flailing away. But obviously seemed to be all right sort of a minute or two later, able to sit up on the stool, and then he was walking around and out of the ring ultimately after that. But yeah, Daichko, I hope there's some sort of link up now with MTK, that maybe it wasn't just a one-off, that his management or promoters, if he is, I don't know his setup, but if he is now managed by MTK, that would be encouraging, because I think they can get him more regular fights. But I don't know who he is signed with at the moment and really what his setup is. But hopefully we see him again soon, because the guy is talented. One thing that you can't teach is height. He's got good height. He's got good skills. Decent pop from what we've just seen against Denis Bakhtov, but let's not, over sort of blow knocking out a guy with almost 20 losses on the record, who's been stopped 11 times now. But, clearly there's something to work with Ivan Dychko, and if he can actually be guided and managed properly, he could maybe sort of, not sort of scale the heights of the heavyweight division, but at least he can give it a good crack and get to a certain level and show us what he's really all about. Because at the moment, I don't really think we know. And let's face it, Denis Bakhtov is probably still one of the better opponents on Daichko's record. And after 10 fights in 5 years as a pro, it's a bit of a sad indictment. He is now 30 years old, so you can sort of see, or sort of say, I should say, that, this is a talent being wasted. A guy that can get 2 bronze medals at the Olympics, there is something there to mould and work with. So let's hope that the trajectory for Daichko is going to start going up instead of, being on the flat line as it has been in recent years. Even before that 2-year absence, he really wasn't in some of the fights that he needed to be in. They weren't guiding him and moving him quickly enough and providing him the development opportunities. It just sort of seems to be much of a muchness. Anyway, I'll leave it there. But if you caught that knockout, what'd you make of it? What do you think of Daichko? Where do you think he can go? How far can he go? We've seen that he's been sparring with the likes of Tyson Fury more recently. I mean, he is a guy that has been in a number of camps and that sort of stuff, but just professionally, he hasn't been able to get it going for whatever reason. And that sort of screams mismanagement. But yeah, I don't know all the ins and outs, but what do you make of it all? Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.